Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang saya hormati, kita amat bertuah ya di pagi Ahad ini. Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Engineer Dr. Zaini Ujang, Ketua Setiausaha Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air sendiri yang akan berkongsi ilmu dan pengalaman berkaitan satu topik yang sangat relevan dan penting, iaitu climate culture. Izinkan saya memberikan sedikit latar belakang yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Engineer Dr. Zaini Ujang. Beliau berkelulusan Dr. Falsafah dalam bidang kejuruteraan alam sekitar dari Institut of Newcastle upon Tyne, UK, serta mempunyai kepakaran di bidang rawatan air dan sisa. Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Engineer Dr. Zaini Ujang merupakan seorang pentadbir, ahli akademik, jurutera profesional alam sekitar, juga seorang innovator, author dan jurumentalis di Malaysia dengan pengalaman lebih dari 30 tahun dalam pelestarian alam sekitar. Beliau merupakan ikon alam sekitar melalui pendekatan EcoShift dan telah menerbitkan lebih daripada 45 buah buku. Beliau telah menyandang jawatan KSU bagi 3 kementerian sebelum menjadi KSU di Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air, kementerian yang bertanggungjawab untuk menggubal dasar berkaitan dengan perubahan iklim. Beliau juga adalah visiting professor di Imperial College London, Tsukuba University Japan, Lund University Sweden, juga lembaga pengarah di UNITEN dan Research Associate di MIT. Pada tahun 2019, beliau telah dinobatkan sebagai tokoh ma'al hijrah pada peringkat kebangsaan. Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Zaini Ujang juga adalah Presiden Friends of River Malaysia yang telah mempopulari program denai kebangsaan sebagai satu usaha untuk membawa komuniti dan masyarakat bersama-sama membersih dan menjaga sungai bagi menzahirkan kelestarian alam sekitar ke arah kesihatan planet. Tanpa membuang masa lagi, dengan segala hormatnya saya menjemput yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Engineer Dr. Zaini Ujang untuk memberikan ceramah ataupun kuliah yang bertajuk climate culture. Dipersilakan Datuk Seri.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang berbahagia Moderator Prof Datin Lariyah dan rakan-rakan saya di kementerian, di pelbagai agensi, di UNITEN, di MyCoal dan siapa saja yang sudi bersama kita pada pagi ini. Izinkan saya memberikan sedikit pandangan terhadap isu yang sangat besar sedang berlaku dalam dunia ketika ini, sehingga kan saya tergerak hati untuk membicarakan soal climate culture. Dan banyak orang bertanya kepada saya, apakah maksud climate culture ni? Adakah budaya baru ataupun budaya songsang dan sebagainya? Jadi saya nak jelaskan bahawa climate culture ini sesuatu yang berkaitan dengan iklim. Apa saja yang kita lakukan, dia berasaskan kepada perubahan iklim. Dan saya juga nak jelaskan beberapa perkara. Tapi sebelum tu, saya pun tak tahu lampau banyak sangat webinar tahun ni. Profesor Lariyah webinar ni ialah yang ke-103 tahun ni.
Oh, wow.
Minggu ni 7 kali. Minggu lepas 6 kali.
Oh.
Minggu depan ni saya ingat ada 7 kali lagi. Jadi semakin hujung, semakin banyak webinar yang berkaitan. Jadi saya dengan rasa rendah diri, cuba memberikan pandangan kalau dijemputlah, kalau tak jemput macam mana kan. Untuk sama-sama kita memahaminya. Dan ini adalah webinar yang banyak penganjurnya dan kami di kementerian bermurah hati dan merasa sangat bahagia sebab ada orang yang memahami kepentingan isu-isu yang berkaitan dengan iklim. Biasanya orang menyebut tentang climate financing, climate impact, climate change. Baru-baru ini disebutkan tentang climate disaster dan perkara yang berkaitan dengan hal-hal yang melibatkan iklim. Jadi hari ini saya akan memberikan sedikit pandangan bagaimana kita boleh maju ke hadapan berkaitan dengan persoalan iklim ini. Dan saya juga ingin minta maaf, saya pun tak tahu nak cakap bahasa Melayu ataupun bahasa Inggeris. Slide saya ada dalam bahasa Inggeris dan saya mungkin cakap dalam bahasa Melayu. Saya tidak nanti orang kata saya membelakangkan bahasa kebangsaan dan sebagainya. Saya pun tak tahu sebab ramai juga orang yang tak boleh berbahasa Melayu yang bersama dengan kita hari ini di luar negeri lah. This is the situation where we are now. We are struggling to find ways and means to overcome COVID-19. And COVID-19 has defined almost everything in life now. I think for the past 2 years probably, yeah. We start working at home because of COVID-19. We start working in different ways. Digital technology penetrating quite significantly in our society, alhamdulillah, due to COVID-19. But there are many people that we recognize that being affected by COVID-19. Ada yang tak ada kerja lagi, dan syarikat-syarikat besar terpaksa ditutup dan sebagainya. Tetapi syarikat-syarikat kecil mula membiak. Kalau kita dengar dulu, ramai anak-anak muda apabila selepas tamat pengajian di UNITEN, di UKM, di UTM, masing-masing menunggu kerja. Sekarang ni mereka tak tunggu kerja lah. Masih belajar tu mereka dah jadi buat kerja sambilan, buat kerja yang berkaitan dengan penghantaran makanan, barangan dan sebagainya. Dan mereka boleh dapat RM1,000 ke RM2,000 sebagai part-timers masa sebagai pelajar. Jadi apabila mereka telah bergraduat, kerja yang RM1,200, RM2,000 itu pun mereka laksanakan, tapi pada masa yang sama mereka mencari peluang-peluang lain yang alhamdulillah negara kita pada ketika ini mencatatkan unemployment rate at 4.2 or 4. It's about that. Ini adalah salah satu petanda bahawa masyarakat kita sangat resilient, sangat berdaya tahan menghadapi kepelbagaian. Tetapi COVID-19 sedikit berbanding dengan recession yang banyak negara sedang alami. Alhamdulillah Malaysia, walaupun kita ada banyak masalah keuangan, tetapi kita masih bertahan, kita masih boleh berjalan, masih ada orang pergi shopping ke mana-mana, berhujung minggu ini dengan bercuti di hotel. Ada yang tak sabar dah nak melepaskan duit yang mereka dah lama pegang berbulan-bulan, ya. Tetapi yang lebih besar ialah climate change, perubahan iklim. Ini yang kita nak bicarakan hari ini. Disebabkan oleh COVID, kita ada budaya ber-COVID sekarang ni. Kemana-mana saja tak bersalam, kemana-mana saja kita tersenyum di balik litupan muka. Tetapi climate change is worse than that. Ini yang perlu kita fahami. Dan kalau kita tengok, ada apa yang disebutkan sebagai World Worries List. Apa yang orang fikirkan? Yang paling besar sekali orang fikirkan ialah tentang COVID-19 lah sekarang ni. Ya, ini data ni pada Julai 2021. Yang paling sedikit sekali orang bicarakan ialah childhood obesity. Tengah-tengah tu ada climate change, 14%. Dalam keadaan COVID ni orang masih bicara tentang climate change. Ya, dan saya juga nak maklumkan pada 1 hingga 13 hari bulan atau 1 hingga 14 hari bulan November nanti akan ada persidangan negara-negara parti kepada Perjanjian Paris 2015 di Glasgow yang kita sebut sebagai Conference of Parties 26 yang sangat popular lah. Presiden negara-negara besar telah menyediakan pelbagai persiapan, Amerika Syarikat akan hadir. Dan yang tidak hadir setahu saya ialah pemimpin utama negeri China sahaja yang tak ada. Yang lain semua hadir kecuali beberapa negeri yang seperti Malaysia menghadapi beberapa isu yang berkaitan dengan parlimen, persidangan parlimen dan sebagainya. Yang selebihnya negara-negara besar saya maksudkan hadir ke persidangan tersebut. Ya. Dan kalau kita tengok dalam dunia ni, negara yang masyarakat yang paling cakna tentang COVID-19 ni orang Malaysia. Sebab tu apabila disuruh buat vaksinasi, dalam tempoh 6 bulan, 90% rakyat Malaysia divaksinasi. Ya, berbanding dengan Amerika Syarikat lebih kurang dalam 60% ya. Dan keadaan mereka yang mencipta vaksinasi tersebut. Syarikat-syarikat mereka mencipta vaksinasi tersebut. Dan banyak negara menghadapi masalah untuk meyakinkan rakyat mereka divaksinasi. Sebab pada mereka, daripada saya mati kebuluran, lebih baiklah saya mati sebagai pesakit COVID. Macam itulah dia punya pemikiran yang saya baca laporan-laporan daripada luar negara tersebut. Negara seperti Sweden 14%, Malaysia yang paling tinggi sekali. Tetapi apabila kita tengok tentang climate change, terbalik. Malaysia yang paling rendah sekali. Dan negara-negara yang rendah kepada COVID-19 itu yang paling tinggi sekali. Seperti contohnya macam Sweden. Sweden climate change ini 18% penduduk mereka. Jiran mereka seperti Jerman, France, Netherlands yang berhampiran dengan negara mereka itu sampai 30, Germany sebagai contohnya 30%. Jadi isu climate change ni sangat besar menjelang conference yang kita akan adakan pada 26 hari bulan nantilah, ya. Dan saya sangat bertuahlah sebab diberi amanat untuk mengetuai delegasi Malaysia ke conference ke COP26 ni. Dan yang juga penting, mungkin orang kita tak faham apa benda perubahan iklim ni. Itu yang saya takutkan. Dan itu yang membimbangkan saya. Kita tidak cakna bukan kerana kita tak tahu kepentingan climate change itu, tetapi sebabkan kita tak faham apa climate change ni. Ya, apa orang sibuk-sibuk sangat nak pergi ke Glasgow COP26 ni. Sehingga kan hanya 1% saja masyarakat kita yang memikirkan hal ini. Jadi apabila kita menyebut tentang budaya iklim ataupun climate culture, it must be reflected in our understanding and our practice. When we talk about culture, it is not knowledge. It is what we adopt in life. We behave accordingly. Yeah, so this is something important for us. Contohnya kita lebih rendah daripada South Africa, lebih rendah daripada Peru, Brazil, Rusia, apa saja negara-negara yang tu kita lebih rendah lagi. Maknanya seolah-olah macam kita ni tak berlakulah perubahan iklim di negara kita ni. Dalam keadaan banyak perkara berlaku. Ya, ini sebenarnya dia berkaitan dengan alam sekitar. Perubahan iklim, siapa yang cakna kepada perubahan iklim, dia biasanya cakna kepada alam sekitar. Dan inilah yang berlaku. Negara kita ni nombor 4 paling rendah tentang persoalan alam sekitar ni. Dalam keadaan sungai kita dicemari, dalam keadaan tong sampahkan sungai kita. Semalam saya pergi ke Sungai Ampang. Sungai yang cantik, jernih, lebih jernih daripada Sungai Air Hitam. Besar aliran airnya. Tetapi sampah, Masya Allah, banyaknya. Kita pun terfikir siapalah yang sanggup buang sampah. Dalam keadaan ikan berenang-renang ke tepian dan ke hulu, ke hilir, ya, kita buang sampah semudah-mudahnya. Inilah perkara yang saya fikir sangat penting untuk difikirkan. Jadi berbalik kepada persoalan kita, go back to our way of describing the situation. I think it has very much related to those who are in driving seats. The driving seaters are people like me, people like Professor Lariyah, people like probably those who are interested to follow this topic through this webinar. And when we were students, we were asked to find your own basket, find your own niche. Ya, saya sama belajar dengan Profesor Lariyah dulu kat England. Kita duduklah, sama ada nak duduk water resources ke, nak duduk water storages ke, nak duduk flooding group ke, nak duduk industrial wastewater ke. Jadi kita telah digrup-grupkan dan kita ni semua ada profesor sendiri, ada grup sendiri dan berfikir secara kotak-kotak yang begini. Semakin dikotakkan, maknanya kita semakin fokus, kita semakin baik, kita semakin maknanya you know what we are doing lah. Tapi in reality, kita keluar daripada universiti, it doesn't happen that way. Dalam jabatan kita tu mungkin kita seorang aja yang ada kepakaran tu. Jadi kita kena ambil semua tanggungjawab ni. Tanggungjawab water resources, domestic waste, domestic water dan sebagainya, kita kena ambil tanggungjawab. Kalau kita tak ambil tanggungjawab, maka faktor tersebut akan terlepas daripada pemerhatian kita, daripada perkara yang kita buat. Contohnya kalau kita berada di pejabat ataupun di local authority, di PBT, biasanya kita ada pegawai jurutera daerah, Jabatan Pengairan dan Saliran. Kalaulah dia tu terlatih biasa dengan kerja yang berkaitan dengan agricultural water, biasa dengan water supply, domestic water, sewage sludge, jadi dia akan integrate benda tu dalam kepahaman dia. Tetapi apabila dia hanya didedahkan kepada water resources, water storage, flood mitigation, ini masalahnya. Ya, dia yang lain tu dia lepas tangannya je lah. Sebab dia tak boleh bagi komen dan dia kata ini bukan bidang saya dan akhirnya tak ada orang yang lihat persoalan tersebut. So in life, when we want to behave and we want to act upon environmental management, we have to understand the whole basket. The whole frameworks need to be understood. Ya, barulah berlaku apa yang kita sebut sebagai Sustainable Development Program. Barulah berlaku green growth. Barulah berlaku apa yang kita sebut sebagai net zero greenhouse gas emission. Bila kita sebut tentang net zero greenhouse gas emission ni, mereka yang berada dalam bidang kejuruteraan air, pengurusan air, pengurusan sumber air. Dia kata, no, this is not my business. Ini bisnes orang dalam bidang tenaga, penjanaan tenaga. Ini bisnes orang dalam mobility, dalam oil and gas. Kami pemain kecil dari segi greenhouse gas emission. Dan realitinya apabila kita minta supaya ada berlaku correlation di antara sewage dengan agricultural waste, ini isunya. Sebab biasanya bukan saja kita berfikir secara kotak, tetapi kita berfikir secara linear daripada kiri ke kanan. Ya, kalau slide saya ni. Jadi tiba-tiba kita kata boleh tak daripada kanan tu patah balik ke kiri untuk recycling water ke dan sebagainya. Ini yang menjadi masalah. Sebab banyak orang kata, no, and it's never happen. Perkara ni akan melibatkan banyak masalah dari segi perundangan, dari segi kejuruteraan, dari segi penyelenggaraan, dari segi pendanaan. Ya, apatah lagi kalaulah receiving water itu kita jadikan industrial water. Ini yang sedang kita lakukan oleh syarikat air Selangor, syarikat air Johor dengan IWK, ya, Indah Water Consortium. Begitu juga dengan industrial water tu balik kepada water resources. Perkara begini kita kena fikirkan dan ada kaedah pemikiran yang berbeza untuk kita melaksanakan apa yang kita sebutkan sebagai sustainable development. Tapi kita ada masa sebelum 2050 sebab banyak perkara yang nak kita lakukan ni dalam framework 2030 dan 2050. Ya. Sebab itulah kita jangan hanya lihat dari segi peristiwa yang berlaku, is not only focusing on events, but we have to understand what is the patterns, what is the structures behind it, what is the mental models that we have to be able to understand. Dan dia ada dua kaedah, satu kita panggil system thinking, yang kedua kita panggil design thinking. System thinkingnya dia lebih melihat kepada trend, pattern, system structure, mental models. Sedangkan design thinking ni biasanya engineer lah. Dia akan lihat dari segi behavior and actions, trend and patterns, underlying thoughts and feeling, meaning, motivation and beliefs. So ini sangat penting. Engineer pun dah fikir tentang persoalan-persoalan keyakinan, motivasi, makna. Dan untuk makluman semua, perbahasan tentang system thinking dan design thinking ini berlaku sangat meriah di MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Kebetulan saya pakai baju Massachusetts hari ni. Bukan apa, cari baju UNITEN tak jumpa. UNITEN kena bagi saya baju yang lebih cantik lah untuk saya pakai lain kali. Ya, untuk mempromo. Jadi saya kebetulan nak cerita tentang system thinking ni, saya pakailah baju MIT sempena dengan saya sebagai associate researcher kat MIT. Ya. Dan ini yang berlaku dan kita biasa, this is events. Ini yang saya sebutkan tadi, ini adalah perkara-perkara yang berlaku. Kita kena cari apa penyebabnya, bagaimana kita nak mengatasinya. That is system thinking. Ya, baru kita orang kata, oh, he understood the problems, she understood the issues. Ya, sebab kita tidak hanya melihat dari segi events, kita lihat dari segi strukturnya, mental models, and how to solve it. Kalau tidak, nanti kita akan sibuklah macam mana nak mengatasi masalah extreme weather events. Kita akan buat macam-macam hal yang kadang-kadang tu kita belanjakan wang di lokasi A yang kena lokasi B atau lokasi 3. Saya bagi contoh yang paling ketara sekali, disebabkan hujan tidak turun di hulu sungai, hulu lembangan sungai. Jadi kita pun terfikir-fikir macam mana hujan tak turun di hulu lembangan sungai. Akhirnya kita buat crowd seeding di hulu sungai supaya sungai hujan turun di hulu sungai. Tetapi realitinya ialah di mana pun berada, di hilir sungai tetap dapat air. Jadi kenapa kita tak berfikir supaya kita takung air di hilir? Banyak orang berkata, hilir itu airnya tercemar. Siapa suruh cemarkan sungai? Kita design sesuatu tu supaya sungai itu dicemarkan. Tak apalah pencemaran kita sampai ke hilir sungai. Apabila saya mengusulkan konsep takungan air pinggiran sungai KK 15-20 tahun dulu, kerana kita dapati di banyak negara, contohnya di Jepun, Kashimegaura, air salah satu daripada tasik yang dibina untuk menyediakan bekalan air kepada bukan saja kepada kawasan sekitar Kashimegaura itu, tapi juga ke sebahagian daripada bandar Tokyo. Ialah di hilir sungai. Bukannya di hulu sungai, di hilir sungai. Jadi setiap pihak kena fikir macam mana kita tak mencemarkan sungai. Kalau selama ni kita mencemarkan sungai, sebab andaian kita ialah selepas ni air itu akan masuk ke laut, laut akan neutralize, akan dilute bahan cemar tersebut. Tapi kalau kita berfikir secara system thinking, berfikiran sedemikian membolehkan kita selesai satu masalah pada masa yang sama kita cari penyelesaian kepada kenapa persoalan pencemaran itu tidak ditangani dengan serius. Ya, kita benarkan pencemaran itu berlaku dengan andaian bahawa air di muara itu seharusnya ataupun tidak apa kalau tercemar. Ya, ini satu mental model yang kita kena tepis dan kita atasi. Ini yang berlaku. This is events. Kalau kita lihat dari segi system thinking, weather and climate related disaster, sama ada cuaca yang sangat panas sehingga menyebabkan empangan kita kering, ataupun debris flow from Gunung Jerai, Kedah in August last few days. I think lebih kurang tak sampai 2 bulan pun perkara ini berlaku. Ini seharusnya memikirkan, kita bila berlaku di Jerai itu kita mesti fikir, kita tak boleh lagi guna pendekatan bahawa sekarang ni kita berharap supaya natural dams to be built naturally as soon as possible. It will take ages for that to happen. Jadi kita kena fikirlah macam mana mental model kita sekarang berbeza bahawa kita kena berbuat sesuatu. Contohnya buat sabur, contohnya lah, ya. Dan kalaulah itu dibuat, mungkin insiden seperti di Jerai ini insya-Allah tak berlaku. Dan kita tahu bila hal tersebut berlaku pada masa-masa tertentu. Dan ini adalah projected sea level rise for 2100, ya. Kita tengok projection untuk for Peninsular Malaysia is up to 0.71 meter. This is during normal tidal situation. When it comes to storm surge, it could be more than that. It could be much higher than that. Recently in Terengganu, we detected that storm surge is up to 3.4 meter height. Ya, tinggi. Jadi maknanya dia boleh masuk ke kampung, dia boleh masuk ke dalam aliran sungai sehingga jauh ke hulu. Ya, storm surge ini mungkin berlaku 2-3 tahun sekali. Tetapi apabila berlaku itu banyak kerosakan yang berlaku. Ya, jadi kita mesti bersedia bukan saja kepada projection 0.71, but what is also important is how to manage storm surge. Therefore, countries like Singapore is building walls around Singapore, 5-meter walls, ya, untuk pastikan yang storm surge berlaku. Data Malaysia dan Singapura lebih kurang sama dari segi projected sea level rise. But what is important, what can we do? For information, the amount of areas or land that we have already underwater in Malaysia or due to sea level rise is equals to 3 size of Putrajaya. Yeah. So this temperature, annual mean temperature trends in Malaysia, we can see that it will be increased from time to time. The daily mean temperature lies between 26 to 28 average. Over the past 4 decades, under Met Malaysia observation, the trend is up to 0.24 degrees Celsius per decade have been detected. Over the next 5 years, there is a positive increase in temperature trends as expected. This is also happening in Sabah and Sarawak. This is rainfall. We are expecting to have more rainfalls. The incident in, say for example, in Jerai recently, it was detected more than 178 mm within 5 hours. That equals 1 month. Yeah, the average rainfall in Malaysia is more than 2,000 mm. So 178 within 5 days. Yeah, 5 hours. So that's huge. Yeah. And this is also average temperature and rainfall between 2030 and 2050. We can see that in Peninsula, it's about 0.25 degrees Celsius increase. The temperature is expected to be 27.4 average maximum, and there will be up to 28.1 degrees Celsius. So it means that we need more air conditioning. We need if we do it positively, we can design our accommodations, our structures to allow cooling, natural cooling to take place. In Sarawak, it's not as much in terms of average temperature because they have a lot of trees still. But we can see in terms of rainfall, Sarawak will record up to 3,907 mm. At the moment, it will be increased up to 4,124. It means double than what we are receiving in Semenanjung now. So therefore, if you follow the flood pattern in the country, the main issue now is not in Terengganu and Kelantan. The main issue now in Sabah and Sarawak. Yeah, the rainfall is much higher, and this is something that we have to overcome. So what can we do from climate point of view? We develop policies, and this is I think the easiest, and we're reporting our obligation to the Convention Framework of Climate Change of United Nations, UNFCCC. And we have climate financing. So climate financing, so for example, we are entitled to receive funding and technology from GEF, Global Environment Facility, Green Climate Fund, and bilateral cooperation. We can also have our own framework. Recently, Bursa Malaysia has announced that there will be facilities, and it is together with Ministry of Environment and Water, on what we call DETS, domestic emission trading systems. And then we have also voluntary carbon market. It's not going to take place very soon. So this is in the past, what we have done, but what is going to be current is developing national adaptation plan as requested by the UNFCCC, and we have to have our national force communication soon. This is our report, application to the Adaptation Fund and technical assistance from TNA. In the future, we are going to have more. Yeah, so this is something big. Okay, I think the biggest news this year or for the past 10 years about climate change in Malaysia in terms of our policy is this statement by Prime Minister. Number one, he iterated the importance of Malaysia to reduce our carbon intensity by 45%, but this time without condition. In the past, with condition, we only agreed to reduce 35% and additional 10% pending on assistance from the other countries. Yeah, because we have done it through many initiatives locally, and we require funding. But if we receive funding, we can further reduce from 45% based on GDP by 2030 compared to 2005 level of GHG. GHG is greenhouse gases. And Prime Minister on the 11th October also announced that Malaysia will achieve net zero greenhouse gas emission the earliest by 2050, pending on our studies to be completed 2022. The studies is called long-term low emission development strategy. It is required by UNFCCC for us to do tracking. Others can do it. Academics can do the studies if you have money. NGOs can do it. But what we need is something with the tracking system. And before we agree on certain numbers, all agencies, all stakeholders must be able to show the numbers and to show the commitments. And Prime Minister has said that the earliest by 2050, it could be 2051. Singapore, say for example, has agreed the second half of the century. Indonesia 2060. And many countries indicated they are going to achieve it in 2050. And I think Malaysia can do it because we are far advanced than many other countries in this part of the world. Especially we have two big components. One is our commitment on green energy, which is easy for us to achieve, and we have done it well. And then the other one, we have the offsetting value, which is forests in the country that can help us to achieve net zero. The second big or the third big initiative going to take place is Ghg Inventory Center, where we can officially accredit numbers that someone interested to achieve. Say, for example, Petronas would like to achieve net zero by 2050. The numbers now is to be accredited because this number will be included in our national communication to UNFCCC every 2 years. Yeah, so that's very important. And then there will be a transparency report. The report that we are going to submit in 2024 need to be vetted by many people. And then government fleets using non-ICE by 2030. All government fleets means that cars, lorries, buses is no longer using fossil fuel, petrol and diesel by 2030. This is big announcement. We just imagine if we have about 200,000 government fleets, government and semi-government, stationary bodies, and government-linked companies. So this is also translated into that. Yeah, development of domestic emission trading scheme together between Bursa Malaysia, Ministry of Finance, and Ministry of Environment and Water going to take place. Inshallah, we have started the initial work, and inshallah by second quarter of the year we'll be able to make it done, and as well as international voluntary carbon market. So this is big in action. This is our nationally determined contribution that we revised recently on 30th of July, as I mentioned. So what is also important is GHG, greenhouse gases, that we are looking at is not only 3 but 7. Therefore, the words here, net zero carbon emission, is not appropriate because people will say, what are you referring to? So we said GHG. So GHG has 7 components: CO2, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, sulfur hexafluoride, and nitrogen trifluoride. These are 7 GHG gases that we are going to monitor and keep track. Yeah. In terms of inventory, you can see that through our biennial update report number 3 in 2020, we have shown changes in energy sector. It started reducing from 253 became 251, and with solar panel in, with hybrid car in, I think this will be further reducing. Despite the number of cars is increasing, the number of population is increasing, but the trend is downwards, I think. Yeah, industrial processes and product is increasing. This is something that we have to work on. Agricultural sector that produce a lot of methane is reducing as well. But what worries me a lot is land use and land use change and forestry. There are 2 components. One is emission, one is removal or offsetting. The emission means that when we start developing new township, new housing area, new railways, new highways. So we are developing that, and with that, we reduce our offsetting, at the same time increasing our land use and land use change and forestry in terms of emission from 3.32 to 17.8. So when we mention about net zero, means that total emission with LULUCF will be 0. Yeah. So at the moment, it's increasing trends, 49.24 to 75.49. So the statement by Prime Minister, by 2050, the earliest, it will be 0. Yeah. So that's the way we understand it. So how can we get it 0? Number one, we have to change the energy component. And Petronas has mentioned that they are going to have they are going to implement net zero by 2050. The same thing happened to TNB. They are the biggest in terms of energy sector in the country. So by their commitment, it means that at least 2 major sectors will be 0. Yeah. So with that, I think easily we will get from 251. If taking this number today, it will be less than 100. Yeah. Because we still have other things. We still have mobility, transportation and whatnot. But with the policy of government to have all government fleets not using oil and gas, so that is something big. Not using petrol and diesel is something big. We must remember that Malaysia is the oil and gas producing country. Yeah, so that's very challenging for Malaysia to accommodate that. So, and the rest I think will be settled down easily. So if we can increase our land use and land use change forestry in terms of removal means offsetting. It is negative numbers. The more negative we have, the more capability for us to offset our emissions. So this is something big. So indirectly what I'm saying, if we can get the rate line 0 or lower than 0, it means that we are net zero. If it is lower than 0, it means net negative, which is good. And we have net negative, we can sell the negativity to others who are requiring. Say, for example, Australia is requiring, Singapore is requiring that to get net zero themselves. So that is not easy to do it because we have to have a framework, we have to have a governance, what we call as climate governance or carbon governance, GHG governance, so that people trust our numbers. And that must be the functions of Ghg Inventory Center to in the future. Okay, I don't want to talk too much on it. I'm going straight to how can we develop the culture. I just take one component because this can reflect the whole thing. Yeah, from 12 Malaysian plan that we have read recently, announced by Prime Minister. There are a lot of initiatives. One of them is sustainability in water resources. So how can we do it? With off-river storages. It means that downstream, as I mentioned, we cannot think of having water storages upstream anymore because sometimes the rain does not fall into that particular site. It falls downstream. Interstate water transfer is to be looked at, probably having different financial framework. We have to have water grids. It means that water from Sungai Selangor Plant 1 must be in the grid form, in grid with Sungai Selangor Plant 2, Plant 3, and from Semenyih 1, Semenyih 2, or Langat 1 and Langat 2. So if we think of that as a grid, as what we have in our energy sector, we don't have issue if any one of them, any of these water treatment plant having difficulties in operation, say for example. There are two components important. One is availability of raw water reserve and availability of treated reserve margin. So if we have more than 20%, so halas, we can do it very easily. Yeah, but to build water grid is not within the framework now. It's very costly because we have to do it within the city, within the point of use, and that costs billion and billion. I'm estimating the cost probably about 20 to 30 billion ringgit Malaysia, and that must be in the form of some kind of financial assistance. Otherwise, water operators will not do it. Regulatory empowerment and strengthening of laws and National River Trail, the Nine Sungai Kebangsaan that I'm going to talk about. You can see that in terms of river margin, we want to have more than 20%. Reduce non-resident water that can be done concurrently. Let's talk about National River first. Yeah. So this is what we have done in terms of climate change in the country. We have done Malaysian Climate Change Council. First time we met, chat by Prime Minister in April this year, and then the second meeting was October 11. We have completed our nationally determined contribution, updated document to UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. We have developed our low carbon cities, low carbon mobility. Why low carbon cities? Because more than 70% of greenhouse emission are generated within the cities. Yeah, What we are trying to finish now, development of carbon market mechanism, establishment of greenhouse gas inventory center. We have already awarded a study done on climate change policy to be reviewed, and development of climate change legal framework means that in the future, we inshallah will have a climate change act in the country. Next year, this is what we are trying to do, yeah? Okay, let's talk about Denai Sungai Kebangsaan. This it started in few places, but about a year ago, Hari Alam Sekitar Malaysia, 21st October 2020, the Honorable Minister Tuan Ibrahim launched Denai Sungai Kebangsaan di Pangkalan Datu. Since then, a lot of activities on Denai Sungai. Our aims is to develop 10,000 kilometer Denai Sungai in Malaysia, yeah, by 2030. Yeah, and we have developed up to more than 500 kilometer already within a year. So this Denai Sungai, for example, what we require is public participation. And we would like that to be used as recreational sites and ecotourism. At the same time, doing river monitoring. A lot of issues related to our river pollution because our river banks are small forests that people dump everything from furnitures to construction waste and sometimes scheduled waste. Yeah, so this is what we discovered, including in Sungai Kim Kim. We would like that to be a food forest as well, to develop sayur, paku pakis, what else that we can have in the future. When we would like to eat paku pakis, or let's go to our trails close to our neighborhood, yeah, something like that. And community food parks as well. So these are activities in Sungai Selaru where people happily, in the past it was a small jungle. Then it's caused a lot of issues there because of wild animals, poisonous animals sometimes entering your neighborhood from this side. So when we do this, people have some kind of vision to make sure that their ecosystem is clean as well as of use to them. In Sungai Klang Melawati, this is downstream of Klang Gate. The water is superb, crystal clear. In the past, because of the lack of public participation, no one bothered about it. We discovered this about 2 years ago, and Cik Mansur, the person with red t-shirt, is the mastermind around this. Then with that, we will be able to get people helping us to clean it almost every day now. In the past, every weekend, but now it's almost every day because we have a jogging track of about 3-4 kilometers now. Yeah. Sungai Kim Kim, the same thing. We are developing 5-kilometer trails. We are aiming to have 10 kilometer, but due to COVID-19 and whatnot, so we slow down the whole thing. And this is Sungai Air Hitam, where UNITEN is located very close to Kampung Dato Abu Bakar Baginda, Selangor. Datin, Professor Lariyah also staying around this area. So we would like people to look after the rivers, yeah. And they're spending time. I'm very grateful. And this is the second outlets from Putrajaya, started from precinct 14. The other outlets is at the vicinity of PICC to the Langat River. This is to Air Sungai Hitam. It will be there will be a confluence point somewhere about 10 kilometers downstream from here. Yeah. So this is what we do from Sungai Air Hitam entering Tasik Cempaka in Bangi. My house is in front of this Tasik. So we hope that by active engagement with public, people will be able to change the behavior towards river. They know that this is something to be appreciated, to be enjoyed with, not to be polluted, and they look after the river ecosystem. No country can have people manning the river. Yeah, no country can do that because it is very expensive. We have 70,000 kilometers river stretch in the country. If you dedicate 1% per 10 kilometer, so you just count how many number of people that we require just to manning the rivers. Yeah. Okay, this is what we have to do for pelestarian alam sekitar. I'm going to stop shortly. One is kebersihan persekitaran, kawalan pencemaran sisa domestik. This is by priority. Kawalan pencemaran buangan terjadual, scheduled waste, pengawalan pelepasan gas-gas rumah kaca, and pelestarian ekosistem. If you want to start with GHG emission control, it's okay, but you will not get the feeling. You will not get to find. To see the results. When we talk about GHG, it is not measured, it is not tested, it is calculated. So sometimes people say, where is GHG gases? I cannot see. This is all numbered. Therefore, we need Ghg Inventory Center to verify the numbers, the calculation. But what we can see in front of us is kebersihan persekitaran, sampah sarap. When the place is clean, and then we can start talking about GHG. But if this dirty, scattered rubbish and whatnot, forget about GHG. Clear that first. That's what we are doing with Denai Sungai Kebangsaan. Ya, kita kena faham, kita kena laksana, kita kena hayati, kita kena ajak dan kita kena ajar. Yeah, that's I don't want to be on this. Yeah, this is an example. In Japan, if flooding occur, is a mercy for the people, because it will cleanse the roadside. The river, the water is very clear like this. Yeah, this is within the train station. It looks like cleaning activities taking place, but it is during the hurricane. So I don't want to talk about it. And then finally, the slide is this. Whatever we do, from planning, strategy, implement, improve from time to time, we get a set of outputs. That is organizational domain. We have to do it. Otherwise, the government, the country, the organization, the university, the community, the neighborhood looks very bad because we have nothing in planning stage, or nothing to be implemented, nothing to be improved on. So we have to do it. But at the same time, we have to have cultural transformation to take place. And this cultural transformation must go within the personal domain, outside the organizational domain. Organizational domain is very easy because you need the document, and at the same time, you get your employees to do it. They can do it if the system is in place, or we develop the system. Sometimes we have to go to parliament. Sometimes we have to settle within our organization. But what important for us to address in Malaysia is the cultural transformation. Why, despite our rivers are beautiful, are crystal clear in Sungai Ampang, people come and pollute it. People come and throw rubbish in it. Why that's thing? Why this is still happening in Malaysia? So that's requires some understanding on habits and behavior. So what is the difference between habit and behavior? As I mentioned many times, habit is unconscious, and we do it 95% of our activities in life on daily basis without thinking, because it is subconscious. Behavior is something we do with conscious mind, and we do it not all in life. Say, for example, while driving, you have to use seatbelt. You have to watch your speedometer. In some places, there will be a signboard saying that you cannot exceed like 80 km per hour or something like that. So that is behavioral. But habits, more than that, if you are habitually put your seatbelt, fasten your seatbelt, and then drive carefully, you don't have to be behavioral in terms of driving, because it is habitual for you to drive safely. Yeah, so something like that. And the same thing happening to environment. If people are habitually throwing rubbish everywhere, they will do it everywhere. Yeah, so this is a study that we have done. In order to do that, we need what we call a climate culture. So we can talk about climate culture later. Climate culture is something that we relate to culture of addressing climate issues. Why people are not driving in many places in the world anymore. They feel proud to say that I don't have car. In the past, if you say that I have 3 cars, you feel that you are a good person. You are a successful person. In some countries now, if you say that you have a car, you are considered a climate warmer. They call you someone that helped to make the global warming happening. So that is the connotation very badly associated with people with fossil fuel vehicles at the moment in many parts of the world. Yeah, so why we do it? Because the climate culture is coming, and then we have to have some understanding why. Say, for example, instead of walking to mosque, which is about 500 meters from your house, you use motorcycle or you use car. At the end of the day, as a result, traffic congestion, now not enough parking space in that area. So the masjid require a bigger parking space, and then to have more money to spend on. At the same time, we are producing greenhouse gases. Yeah, and then we are not helping people to walk 10,000 steps every day. If you do that, you can easily having probably 16,000 steps every day if you walk to Musalla, to Surau every morning and afternoon. Yeah, just for that, and plus some other activities. So Datin, Professor, I would like to stop here. I'm so sorry, it's a bit too lengthy. This is my passion. When I talk about this, I can talk up to 2 o'clock. So I have to stop here to give a chance for people to interact with me. Sekian, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Dato Seri, for your very informative and interesting presentation related to the climate change from the perspective by the ministry, and you have shared with us just now the commitment by the government on the reduction of 45% carbon intensity based on GDP by 2030 compared to 2005 level, and net zero GHG emission at least by 2050. You know, that is a very interesting. At least we know that what is the direction and the contribution of the Malaysian government towards supporting these issues on the climate change. And I think it's very interesting also when Dato Seri mentioned about the way how we think, the system thinking and design thinking, and the way how we actually come out with the solutions to the problems, whatnot. Banyak tadi Dato Seri dah cover everything, but the most important, I guess, is actually related to the climate culture that I can see that it's actually related to the eco shift. And also the way how we see things, like we need to have a strong leadership, I guess, and the most important is the public participation, is community involvement. And I think in your book also you mentioned about the eco shift, and you know, like regulatory framework is only about 10%, strong leadership is 30%, but the most important is the community, and you have shared with us just now on the Sungai Kebangsaan and whatnot. So I think I would like to open the questions to any participants of this webinar. If you want to ask a question directly to Dato Seri. Anyone? Or else, Dato Seri, I have questions already for you.
Yeah, sila.
I read the questions. Based on the statistics, Malaysians are still less aware on climate change. What is the best approach for us as engineers or educators to educate our people to be more aware on climate change and implement in their lifestyle?
Okay, I think after Prime Minister made announcement about net zero GHG emission by the earliest by 2050, a lot of policymakers, a lot of head of departments, head of service, and probably captains of industry will be made aware. Well, I think they are already aware about the importance of that statement. Those who are not having what we call climate policy or environmental policy, will be punished by stakeholders, especially in stock market. Therefore, many corporations in Malaysia now embarking on ESG, environment, social, and governance policy. And on environment, it is specifically on your policy on climate. When are you going to have net zero? Countries like, say, for example, Sweden, they are going to stop producing and selling fossil fuel vehicles by 2026. Sweden, Norway, Denmark. And these are automotive industry center in the world. Sweden is producing Volvo, Scania, apa lagi? Volvo, Scania, the other one. And they are also big in oil and gas. If you think of Norway, Norway is one of the biggest country in the world producing oil, I mean gas if I'm not mistaken, gas or oil, I forgot, gas if I'm not mistaken, yeah. So this is something that many countries trying to commit themselves to achieve. And from investment point of view, if your company, especially company like TNB or Petronas, they are not committed on net zero GHG emissions, whenever they want to raise fund, they will get difficulties to get cheap funding. The risk assessment will be poor, and then less people would like to invest in your activities, unless you say that I'm going to embark on something else. We have to do the normal thing, but in addition, we have offsetting policy, planting, say for example, 50 billion trees every 2 years or something, and then that will increase the offsetting value. Land use change, and forestry, as I mentioned in my presentation just now. Yeah, so this is how people look at it. And universities such as UNITEN, you are in a bigger responsibility now to ensure that our students understand about it, and then the sector, the energy sector, is to be, I would say, to be green, to make it greener from time to time. Yeah.
Okay, Datuk Seri, banyaklah soalan ni. Ada lagi soalan? Sekejap, saya bacakan. Okay, assuming the coming monsoon is as bad as what happened in Europe this year, how ready is Malaysia?
We depends. If you think of monsoon timur laut, there are some major works under construction at the moment in Sungai Golo, Sungai Kelantan. The project is not yet completed on flood mitigation. But I think generally after 2014, people are more resilient in many ways. I was in Kelantan 2 days ago. I was on Friday. I was in Kelantan visiting some areas in Kota Baru. So we think that with the existing situation, people are more ready to have their lands to be shed for local drainage system. If you are in kampung, normally there is no drainage system, but in Kelantan now, I think because of the incident in 2014, they realized the importance of giving up their lands. Otherwise, it's very expensive to build a drainage system in kampung area. To buy the land, it takes time, and then everyone must be able to sacrifice. But now in Kelantan, the places that I visited recently, they are willingly asking government to improve this the drainage system. So because they still remember in 2014 this is fully flooded, so I better donate some portion of my land. Ya, saya berjumpa dengan orang-orang di kampung tu, dia kata tak apalah, buatlah. Bila nak datang, kata minggu depan nak datang. So that's the attitude. We learn from our previous lesson. Bila tak ada sistem saliran, macam mana nak mengatasi masalah hujan dan sebagainya? Ya, banjir. Okay.
Okay, Datuk Seri, ada banyak lagi soalan ni. One more, another question here. Culture changes are always slow, gradual, and takes time. This is from one Punita. Talking about climate changes, I believe during the COVID-19 lockdowns, one good thing happened was cleaner air, cleaner waters, cleaner environment. Some are more complex to handle, but working from home can be achieved at least for large number of workforce by reducing energy and fuel consumption. If this hypothesis is proven, would KASA consider the first move of allowing work from home to drive positive climate culture?
Okay, that relates to new policy that we are thinking. It's not only that, we are thinking of beyond working from home.
Yeah.
Say for example, our attire to work. In Malaysia, we are the only country in this part of the world that the normal dress for higher officials wearing suit. Yeah, suit in Singapore is only for wedding ceremony or very, very official. In fact, you go to parliament without suit in Singapore. You go to parliament without jacket in parliament in Singapore, without tie. The same thing happening in Indonesia. The same thing happening in Singapore. In Thailand. But in Malaysia, and as a result, we have to have our air conditioning system at 20 degrees Celsius, indoor temperature in Malaysia, because you are wearing suit, otherwise berpeluh-peluh kita. Yeah, if we can rethink about that policy, and automatically we can have 25 degree or 24 degree indoor temperature. So we want to do it gradually, understanding the issues, and then we put a package of work. We call it green working ecosystem. Ya, kita hari itu kita nak buat sikit tentang, tetapi tak kata kalau kita buat sekali kita buat sepenuhnya. Sebab sekarang ni macam people are talking about net zero GHG emission. So in order to do that, we have to really think overall. Say for example, Cabinet last week has already noted that in all government events, there will be no drinking water served by using bottle, single-use plastic bottle. Yeah, so that's big initiative. So they ask us what to do. We buy big container. That's okay because people don't throw container that easily. And then we get water from the big container, put in a jug, a proper jug. Yeah, and then that is something I think more doable, practical, compared to just saying that we are not using single-use plastic. So we have to put in the form of guidelines many green initiative to be practiced in our offices, yeah, including work from home, especially during certain period of time. Contohnya macam hari Jumaat. Kenapa Jumaat jam? Daripada dulu saya fikir, kenapa hari Jumaat jam? Setiap petang Jumaat mesti jam. Ya, pukul 4 petang nak keluar dari Kuala Lumpur tu kadang 2 jam pun sampai ke rumah saya. Tapi kalau hari lain, taklah seteruk tu. So we have to do study. At the same time, probably we can reducing the traffic congestion by allowing people to work from home on Friday. Some of the workforce. Yeah.
Okay, Datuk Seri, last questions daripada Mr. Stevie. Yang berbagi Datuk Seri, was there any study conducted by the ministry to find the association between the green government procurement and the climate change?
There was a study much earlier. I forgot when it was started. the government is willing to, according to Green Technology Master Plan 2017-2030, by 2030, government procurement is 100% green products. At the moment, it's 30%. Do you know that all papers that bought through the central contract are all green label? Yes, there's a lot of green label now available in the market. And it is not much lower, it's not much, it is not more expensive than the normal one, because the economy of scale has already achieved, I think, and then it is almost comparable price between green and non-green stationaries in particular. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Can I have last slide
yes, please, Dato
to say
Seri.
goodbye to everyone?
Yeah.
I would like to share this, and this is what I keep on telling people. When we focus on environmental policy, the performance indicator is KPI, and KPI related to your, if you are in a company in university such as UNITEN, it relates to your salary package. It's related to your annual appraisal. Sometimes for us, those who are in managing financing, budget, spending, performance, and sometimes we need ratings. What is your rating this year? Oh, we see that some of what we have done is highly rated, and if index for us to prove that we are doing well. So that's environmental policy. People don't talk about culture in offices, among people in managing environmental policy. They talk about organizational domains. They don't talk about personal domains of the people. They don't talk about what people do in their bathroom, what people do while they are alone brushing their teeth or taking shower. And that has a lot to do with us, because the more you use water excessively, of course, water companies will get more income, but it will sacrifice, it will compromise on our environmental sustainability. A lot more trees to be cut because we need to give space to new dams to be built. We have to have more pumping capacity. So as a result, GHG will be produced using electricity generated by fossil fuel. Something like that, as simple as that. Therefore, if we have some understanding, so what is the basis of that understanding for us to be a better person? You can use Japanese philosophy, you can use Christian theologies or whatever, but from Islamic perspective, we have developed together with Professor Zulkifli Umar Yusuf, we wrote book on 40 Hadis Pelestarian Alam Sekitar. This book is mainly to introduce Islamic philosophy. When we do things, it is halal and tayyiban. Driving cars with fossil fuel is okay, halal. There is no fatwa yet to say haram. But if you drive excessively alone in the city, that is not tayyib. That is not good. That will hurt the environment. Yeah. Drinking coffee with milk, drinking coffee with sugar is okay, with sugar. But excessive sugar is not good. It's not tayyib. The words halal and tayyiban is a Quranic phrases, and twice it was referred to food in diet. But we expand the understanding not only halal and tayyiban for food, but also for other practices. Say, for example, driving to masjid, the closest masjid, is okay, it's halal. But if you drive, it's probably not tayyib. Yeah, because you're exceeding certain limits of, say, for example, greenhouse gases per year, per person. If you take that budget, we have to budget ourselves. Therefore, I keep on telling people, everyone should plan to plant 6 to 7 trees a year. And that is depending on their travel programs. If they travel quite a lot, they could, you just follow me, 1 tree every month. Yeah, so you can calculate that, and then you can go to Ghg Inventory Center, can calculate for you. So that's what we are doing in the ministry this year. In KASA, we will calculate how much we travel, and then we compensate, or we offset with planting trees along the river corridor, along the Nai Sungai. So therefore, the Nai Sungai has many I would say that roles, functions in our society. So those who are interested to offset their GHG emissions, so you can use that. It is belong to government reserve. So that's very important. And ecological philosophy is something that we can choose from. Say for example, for Muslims, say for example, the concepts of development is khalifah. Kita ni sebagai wakil, sebagai orang yang diarahkan buat sesuatu. Don't destroy this, protect this world, because this world is given to us sebagai khalifah, bukan kita punya. Kita tolong untuk lestarikan alam ini. Dan kalaulah kita terlampau ekstrim and terlampau sangat legal minded, apa saja legalistik. Oh, kita buat undang-undang baru, kita buat akta baru, peraturan baru. I have to tell you, we have almost everything in Malaysia. Sampah tu RM2,000 tau kalau tertangkap. Saya nak tanya, setahun berapa ramai orang ditangkap kerana buang sampah? Dan keadaan sungai kena penuh sampah. Sepatutnya kerajaan kita ni, kerajaan especially local government, dia kaya sebab banyak orang buang sampah. Sekali buang sampah, kita tangkap RM2,000. Jadi pendapatan utamanya bukan daripada cukai pintu, tetapi dia daripada denda orang membuang sampah. Sebab itulah sampah kita banyak. Ya, dan this is part of our taqwa and ibadah. Kalau kita faham benda tu, kita mengurangkan penggunaan air, kerana dalam hadis ada sebut Nabi mandi hanya menggunakan 3 ke 4 liter air. Ya, itu, dan kita mandi excessively. Kalau kita nak ikut Nabi lah, kalau kita tak nak ikut Nabi itu soal lain. Ya, kalau kita nak ikut sunnah Nabi, itulah banyaknya. Berwuduk dengan 0.67 liter. Kita berwuduk tak fikir pun. Sekurang-kurangnya dengan kita ada ecological philosophy ni, kita tak mungkin 0.67 liter tu terlampau ideal. Ya, kita katalah 1 liter. Okey. Lebih sikit. Tapi sekurang-kurangnya kita berusaha untuk sampai 0.67 liter. Yang tak boleh, kita tak berfikir ke arah itu. We never think about it. This is my right. I pay the expenses, so I get whatever I want. Itu adalah watak orang yang sombong, tak mengenal diri, tak tahu bahawa dia sepatutnya di khalifah. Khalifah ini lebih rendah diri, tahu tentang peranannya supaya sama-sama menjaga alam ini. Yeah, so we want to start the debates not on environmental policy alone. I would say that what we have, what Prime Minister mentioned, announced on October 11 is very ambitious. Banyak orang tertanya-tanya kenapa Malaysia terlampau ambitious. I receive a lot of requests from ambassadors to Malaysia asking why is this so drastic. Malaysia is going to be too advanced compared to many developed countries. Ya, kita punya kenyataan itu. Amerika tak kata dia akan semua fleet menggunakan non-fossil fuel by 2030, tak ada. Jepun pun tak cakap macam tu. Tapi Malaysia cakap, kita kata. Ya, sebabnya kita nak punya komitmen. Tapi kerajaan punya komitmen tu ialah environmental policy. Kita mesti fahamkan masyarakat. Sekarang ni ustaz-ustaz kena ajar orang, pergi naik motosikal ke masjid itu boleh, tetapi kena beristighfar banyak-banyak sebab kita mencemarkan alam sekitar. Sepanjang kita pergi ke masjid tu. Yang penting ustaz jangan naik motosikal lah. Sebab apa? Bacalah buku 40 hadis pelestarian alam sekitar. Ada penjelasan di sana. Semakin banyak pelepasan karbon kita, semakin panas bumi ini, dan ini menyebabkan macam-macam mudarat seperti bencana banjir yang berterusan. Kemudian tu dengan ketidaktentuan ombak yang memecah pantai kita dan sebagainya. So itulah kesannya. Tak nampaklah kesan secara langsung, tetapi kesan secara tak langsung itu sangat nampak. Yang nampaknya ialah yang dekat dengan kita. Sebab tu saya kata tadi, kutip sampah tu penting. Sebab 90% daripada banjir yang berlaku di Malaysia sekarang ni, pada tahun ni dan tahun lepas, disebabkan oleh banjir kilat. 90% daripada banjir kilat itu disebabkan oleh longkang tersumbat. Itu dia. Jadi pastikan longkang jangan tersumbat. Nak tentukan longkang jangan tersumbat, kutiplah sampah, jangan masuk dalam longkang. Ya, as simple as that. Jadi kutip sampah ataupun kutip sampah sambil beriadah, kudah, dalam bahasa Inggeris plogging, itu satu usaha yang sangat besar bagi saya lah. Wallahu a'lam bishawab. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, Dato' Seri. Wow, thank you very much for sharing with us. Kami hanya dapat merakamkan setinggi penghargaan lah kepada yang bagi Dato' Seri di atas pembentangan dan juga memberikan pandangan. Cuma hari ini saya tak nampak Dato' Seri nak sharekan yang 10 sumbangan kecil secara pribadi tu. Mungkin dah selalu sangat cakap kot. Tanam
Ada,
pokok
semua ada.
sampah.
Ada, saya kebetulan nak cepat tadi, saya tak.
Okey, mungkin itu boleh jadi penutup lah Dato' Seri.
Ada. Tak, saya menggunakan yang ni. Sekarang ni saya simplify.
Okay.
Sebab orang banyak tanya saya macam mana, saya rasa yang ni lebih generik lah. Daripada 10 tu jadi 5.
5.
Jadi 5 yang besar lah. Di bawah tu banyak-banyak lagi lah. Ya. Ni je punya tu.
Alright. Okay. So dengan itu kami penganjur pada hari ini, untuk webinar hari ini, kami ucapkan terima kasih sekali lagi kepada yang bagi Dato' Seri Ujang dan juga semua penonton lah yang telah meluangkan masa menyertai sesi webinar kali ini. Semoga bermanfaat dan kita harapkan nanti para penonton juga boleh kongsikanlah pandangan masing-masing mengenai kesalahan alam sekitar. At any time boleh saja berhubung dengan pihak KASA secara direct. Dan juga pada masa yang sama kita sebenarnya boleh beri contribution lah pada pandangan saya lah. Contribution mengikut apa yang kita mampu dan kita suka. So misalnya kalau saya rasa Dato' Seri, saya suka pokok. So saya menanam pokok sendiri rumah saya. So pada masa sama saya pun tanam pokok juga untuk sungai air hitam lah. Dia naik kemasan sebagainya. Dan mungkin yang paling senang sekali lah, mungkin kita kena change behavior in terms of bawa sendiri, I mean no plastic, so bawa our own shopping bag. Memang belum lagi menjadi satu culture, tapi lama-lama mungkin dah kebiasaan. Macam recently pun my children, bila saya terlupa bawa, dia akan ingatkan saya sebagainya. So ini adalah antara benda yang simple yang kita boleh start dengan rumah dulu, di rumah kita sendiri, dan akhirnya menjadikan satu culture dan menjadikan satu akhirnya tercapailah cita-cita kita untuk Dato' Seri cakap tadi lah, the eco shift, ecosofi dan sebagainya, dan akhirnya kita boleh membantu mencapai ataupun mengurangkan isu-isu yang berkaitan dengan climate change tadi. So kita mulakan daripada rumah sendiri. So dengan itu kita tamatkan sesi webinar kali ini dan semoga berjumpa di lain kali. Selamat beristirahat hujung minggu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye. Thank you Dato' Seri.
Okay, terima kasih.